welcome to the Royal Geek Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Rollison, also known as T-Roll, and tonight I'm joined by my very good friends. First of all, we have Justin Sandoval, a.k.a. Sandy, and we also have Anthony Amato, who we like to call Shamato. Boys, it's good to be with y'all tonight. We are
We're back.
We're
together.
back.
Yeah,
It's been a couple weeks. Thanksgiving holiday. We took a break.
Yep.
But we are here to review a show that maybe only 2 people are going to listen to because we don't know how many people watch this show.
Yep. If you have an iPhone, you may have a chance of watching this.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true. Good point.
Yes. We are here to review the Monarch Legacy of Monsters show, which is a Apple TV Plus?
Yeah, Apple TV Plus.
Apple TV Plus exclusive.
It is a Godzilla spinoff.
That's right.
Yeah.
So what, real quick, spoiler free, explain to our listeners what this show is, where the context of where it falls in this
Yeah.
universe, what this universe is.
Yeah, this show falls within the timeline of the most recent American-made Godzilla films. So the 2014 Godzilla film.
Yeah.
Up until the most recent one, which was like 2 to 3 years ago, which was Godzilla versus Kong.
Yeah. But essentially, it all kind of runs around that first movie. Truthfully, timeline wise.
Yeah. For the show, the timeline is immediately after the first movie. You see flashbacks of that moment.
Yeah, so this, Kong versus Godzilla hasn't happened in this show.
Correct.
this
Yeah,
universe.
it has not happened
No.
yet.
Because
They haven't even reached the second event yet.
2015?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, 2015 San Francisco event they keep referring to in the show. But yeah, that's
Right.
where we're at right now.
G-Day.
Yeah.
Yes.
Godzilla Day.
Yeah. That's right.
So we're excited to review it. It's a little different, but it also feels like it falls right in line with really what we're all about here in the Royal Geek Podcast.
Yeah.
Geek crap.
Dude, I love Godzilla, man. I actually last night I went to go see the premiere of Godzilla minus one. Sorry, Godzilla -1, and it was a great production, man. It was going into the movie. There was a lot of 100% reviews on Rotten Tomato.
Yeah.
And by the time I actually watched the movie, it dropped down to 98.
Oh,
But,
wow.
yeah, I
98.
know, right? But
Slacker.
it was so good. I saw it on 40X too,
Yeah.
so I was like literally blown out of my seat.
Yeah. Well, and what I do love is that they are attempting to kind of go back a little bit to their roots and setting a movie actually in Japan.
Oh yeah.
Whereas, I feel like a lot of the attempts have been very how we've seen it, Americanized. It's like everything's happening in the United States. Everything's happening in the United States, or other places, but not necessarily going to Tokyo, where the origin of the Godzilla is.
Yeah. It was a fun ride, and I definitely recommend it for sure.
Heck yeah. But primarily for us, for the next few weeks, we were kind of talking about how we were in a little bit of a, content dry spell, like what's to come out.
You're putting out all the artsy movies right now. That's what they're doing. Yeah.
It's that little lull between. Although truthfully, I think it's just because there were just the Thanksgiving movies, which is usually a pretty big weekend. I think they were a bit of a letdown.
Yeah.
I don't know I don't know exactly how Wish has been received so far, but
It's
I know
53 currently on Rotten Tomatoes.
yeah, so not super great.
Yeah.
And I know Napoleon hasn't been super well received either.
Yeah, this is the Oscar bait movie season / kids movie season.
Yeah.
So those are the 2 types of movies you're gonna see, and then occasionally you'll sprinkle in something you're trying to hide, like Aquaman 2 or something like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Except they're leaving it out there in the middle. It's that Christmas movie this year.
Goodness.
More on Aquaman 2 later. I'm sure we'll talk about that at another point, unfortunately.
Yeah, sadly.
But yeah, we are here to review Monarch, which I'll say this. If you're like, dude, T-Roll, come on, Godzilla, an extended universe of Godzilla. I was a little hesitant too, but the truth is, I have watched enough things on Apple TV Plus now to realize that
you trust it.
Yeah, man. There's this thing about Apple. Sorry, guys. I know you guys aren't iPhone dudes, but
Yep.
Apple does everything with excellence. They do.
They do everything with excellence after someone has already done it with excellence for decades.
But still, truth is, everything they put out feels clean, feels crisp, feels well thought through.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of shows like Severance.
Yeah.
right? Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
So, and there's others too. But
Shrinking,
Slow Horses, we just saw a
That's right.
trailer of, which looks really. I want to.
I'm gonna start it probably. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I learned it was on Apple TV Plus, I was like, well, you know what? They usually put a lot of investment behind these shows.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyways, we because of the scheduling, like this is our first review. So we're going to be talking about the whole series, episodes 1 through 4 on this episode.
Yes.
And then we will go to episodic reviews from the week for the weeks to come. So hopefully I was able to sell you on it. If you have Apple TV Plus or if you have a friend that has it, check the show out and join us on this journey of reviewing this pretty awesome show.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's fun ride so far.
So here's your spoiler warning for the first 4 episodes. Why don't you guys start with just overall 4 episodes in? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect going into this. Obviously, you're like, okay, it's a Godzilla TV show, so what exactly are we going to get from this, right? And when we open up, like the very first scene of the entire series is a flashback to Skull Island.
Yes.
When obviously Kong Skull Island, that movie's a part of this universe, and you see John Goodman's character carrying information.
Yes.
But I was immediately seeing that scene. I was like, okay, my expectations are completely rocked already because like you're getting full connectivity involvement. Like, it's already there. And then, I mean, you're getting monsters every single episode, which I did not expect at all. But that's how you can tell Apple's coming with the checkbook here.
The money, bro.
Yeah, and
Moolah.
you know what? CGI is actually really good.
Yeah, it's super solid.
The CGI
so far.
in the show has been better than the last 2 years of Marvel CGI, like easily.
Yeah,
Easily.
there's like it's
And
definitely
DC.
had some.
I mean,
Come on, The Flash.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Good point.
yeah,
Good
that
point.
was-
Yeah. But I'm just thinking the Suicide Squad had a good CGI.
I love how every time Justin makes a comment about Marvel, he looks at me. Every time I make a comment about DC, I look at him. But no, the CGI for real in Monarch does. I mean,
Super solid so far.
Yeah. I mean, that shot of Godzilla when it flashes, I think episode 1 or 2, flashes back to G-Day.
Yeah,
Dude.
yeah, over the bridge. San
Yeah,
Francisco bridge.
yeah. Where Kate's on it's like from her perspective getting off that school bus
Yes.
or whatever.
Yeah. God.
Holy smokes, man.
And everything about this show feels like larger than life. Obviously, yeah, cool. Where you're dealing with like massive monsters, but it feels even grander than that. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. You just got to watch it. Like it's a larger than life show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've really enjoyed it so far. I do have some reservations about this last episode a little bit, but the first 3 episodes I felt were really good. I felt like they were diving into some really interesting ideas, and they had some different like takes on things that were really cool, and they were experimenting with some things that you hadn't seen, and kind of like subverting some classic tropes. In good ways.
Yeah.
In the first couple episodes that was doing some really cool stuff, and you're really diving deeper into like they were building the world of Godzilla very well. I felt like, which is something that like most Americans are not super familiar with. For the most part, people kind of like think, maybe they've seen like 1 or 2 of the older Godzillas. If they're like, that's pretty intense actually. If they've seen some of the older ones, and then they're like, the big one that kind of people points at is like the Matthew Broderick one, which is not even really considered a Godzilla movie anymore because like legitimately, I believe the studio bought the movie's rights so that they can kind of strip it of being a Godzilla movie. But anyway, and then now we have this new universe that's building up. They're really building up the whole like idea, because up until this point, I felt like they had kind of like in America they had really wanted to have like, this is Godzilla. It's gonna be all about him, and they're really diving into the idea of like, potentially like him being a hero in some ways, but like jumping back and forth whether you believe he's a hero or whether you think he's just a mindless beast in a lot of ways.
Right.
It's very interesting, like back and forth.
There's a whole dynamic there that you
Yes.
can easily tear apart the layers there.
Yeah. I will say, Amano, one point to highlight what you said about them building out the world of Godzilla. One little detail that I appreciated in the first few episodes was when they're in Tokyo.
Yeah.
And Kate, she's American, but she's walking around and she's seeing all the signs for Godzilla evacuation route. Like even that, like a cool little detail where it's like in that world that was a huge need.
Yes.
And the whole city has like every big building, every government building, every
all
street,
marked, yeah.
it's all marked with that green like Godzilla route, Godzilla evacuation route.
Yeah.
And, like that's a cool detail.
Yeah. Well, now, T-Roll, you're the conspiracy theorist of it.
Sure.
How did you feel about
That's me.
about the cab driver? And he's like,
Yeah, he's got a podcast.
because
about
remember
it.
he has a podcast and he talks about like how San Francisco was just done with CGI.
Yes.
gosh,
Yes. And Kate's like, I live there.
Yeah.
My dad died. Well, that's what
Well,
you
at
thought.
that time she thinks that is.
Yeah.
Although to tell you, I kind of wish she had kind of like chewed into him a little bit.
Well, there's
like,
a lot of things we wish her
Yes.
character would have done. But,
Yes.
Or wouldn't do.
yeah. That's true.
Yeah, I've got some thoughts on Kate, but we're
Yes.
just focusing on the highlights so far.
Yeah.
Another highlight, and I just love anything where there is a super powerful government subsidiary or private security company
Yeah.
or something like this, like what Monarch is. Anytime,
see him to get pwned.
well, just seeing all the
gears turning, like the strings being pulled.
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
the shadows,
Yes.
the not espionage per se, but just all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Is exciting. It's
Where
fun.
their tendrils go and things like that.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. Like it's gripping. It's good television. Yeah, the Monarch has always been like a symbol like of the like Muto. Like they're trying to find the organisms, the unidentified terrestrial organisms. Like they're trying to do that.
Yeah.
And this kind of shows where the organization has gone because we get the flashbacks.
Yes.
They jump you back into the 50s when they found Monarch and how it started as like a scientific research, and then they flip you right back to the future and it's completely changed. Like it's more of like a military,
Militaristic,
yeah.
yes.
And I don't know. I just found that intriguing. And one of the downsides of the fourth episode was we didn't get another flashback like resolution. What happened with what we saw in episode 3?
Also interesting is like it's kind of it kind of has similar parallels to the creation of Shield, and so like in the idea of like it starts out with Captain Carter with very like almost pure intentions and what they were going to try to do and make a better secret organization to help the world and help keep world peace. And then it seems to have kind of, at least Monarch hasn't gone as far as like Hydra completely infiltrating as far as we know at this point, but they do seem to have
They're
in
shady,
some
bruh.
ways they've
shady.
they seem to have become more shady, or at the very least part of them has seemed to have lost their way, and they're really showing in like the way that like they react to these situations and the way that people like are unwilling to listen to scientific fact. It's like even in the fourth episode, they're just like that one guy just kept on being like completely like the idea of like the ostrich's head in the sand, like does not want to listen to it. Like this can't be true. It is an impossibility. And it's like all his scientific fact is pointing at this one way, and he's refusing to look at it.
Yeah. Do you guys, the style of the show, do you enjoy the way they're jumping back and forth in the timelines?
I believe I am. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
because I mean,
I like it a lot.
The roots of Godzilla in itself, like Godzilla, the creature, has been around for 70 plus years. Like, so yes, we need to jump back that far to fully grasp what's happening. Like, there's significant events. Like, for example, the episode where we see Bill Randa. I guess he's going by William and back in the day, right?
Yeah.
I don't think he's officially transitioned to Bill yet, but he's looking for his ship. Like we don't know he's looking for his ship, but his ship is there.
Yes.
And that has significance because it was at Pearl Harbor. So like these things matter because the such a close tie to what happened in World War II to create Godzilla. Like it's all about the H bombs and creation, man tampering with nature, that kind of thing.
You mean awaken Godzilla, right? Not create.
No, the radiation from
Created Godzilla. That's the story.
Yeah, like it depends on like how you look at it. Like there are different like lores that are set up,
Yeah,
whether he
that's
was
true.
either
That's a good point.
created by it or whether he was just awakened. I think in this universe,
you're right. He's awakened.
he's
Yeah.
awakened.
Okay. Yeah.
But there's a lot of like universes set up that he was actually
Created
created
by it.
by the
Okay.
nuclear weapons, and that's like it really is like a huge like. It shows you like the scars on the Japanese community of the dropping of the atomic bombs. That they created this character to be like, so much a part of. Yes, very much like a parallel of what is happening in their world.
Yeah. Which I mean, like I said, I just saw at the beginning of the episode. I just saw the Japanese version. So
Yeah.
obviously that's that lore is on my mind right now. So, but yeah, it's really cool to just be able to see those 50 scenes, like those like when they're on the beach looking at Godzilla actually show up in the episode.
Right.
Like, did you guys expect to see Godzilla in the series at all?
No.
No.
Not at all. Like besides flashbacks.
Especially in that scene, I was really expecting it to be like the way they were playing it out, like this like complete letdown, situation where it was like, oh well,
but then he
doesn't
emerges.
come out, and then he comes out,
Yeah.
and
not only that does he like you get a good full on scene of just him standing there staring at this bomb like.
But and I think I like it as well with the time switching because they've connected the two. It isn't just this is happening in the present, but this was also happening in the past.
Yeah,
they've interwoven like family ties and things like that. You're seeing the Randas, in the past, and then you're seeing them in the future. One thing I really have loved so far was the rug they pulled out from underneath us with the grandmother. Like I was like, because right before that they were like kind of building up her to have like some plot armor, and then they were like, and then like the next scene is the scene where she drops.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, I love that like they subverted your expectations in that moment where they were where everything was happening. So I really like that was a scene that I extremely enjoyed where I was like, they did a really good job because they were building up hard, like the grandmother and like their connection, like right before this happened, and like you're kind of like almost building up, like I said, plot armor, and then she just
falls down. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Brutal.
I'm really intrigued with Apple's decision to do Kurt Russell and Wyatt Russell. I think this is this is a great. It was a great decision, but
cool.
But the fact that they did this, they chose to do this. I feel like they're like, oh, you know what? We'll get the father son duo to do this.
Although I did love how Kate's like, wouldn't that make you like 90?
Right.
yeah.
And he's like, good genes. What can I say? Good genes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that was something else that I was kind of like leaving out, but like I do really love that because there aren't a whole lot of times that you will see that kind of like I can only really think of right now like one other movie where you really get to see a good solid father son playing the same character. Like you see like a father and son playing together or a father and son playing similar character like in a movie or something like that, but like the only one I can really think of at the moment is in A Man Called Otto, which is a recent Tom Hanks movie where his son plays a younger version of him. But I think it's really cool that they stack them like that, and not only that, but they they're doing a really good job, I feel like, carrying that character.
They even did a scene where they transitioned from young to old.
Yes.
And I didn't realize how much Wyatt looked like Kurt until that
Until
scene.
that
And
scene.
I was like, oh, yeah. Like the entire bottom portion of his face is exactly shaped like Kurt Russell's. He just doesn't have short hair. Like that's
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, he's just that jaw is like that is Kurt Russell,
Yeah.
right to a T.
Let's talk about the children of Randa.
Yes.
Yes.
So you got Kate and Kentaro.
Yep.
Yes.
Kate and
What do
Kentaro.
you guys think about their dynamic?
Awkward.
Yeah, at first, definitely awkward. I feel like in the beginning of the series, like the first episode, you're kind of led to believe that Kate's on this journey, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's Kate's journey, and then all of a sudden, Kentaro's introduced, and it's like a side swipe, steal her story kind of thing.
Yeah.
And now I feel like Kentaro's now the main focus as far as the Randa siblings are. concerned, right? Because Kate's kind of taken like a back seat to Kentaro since they
A little
met,
bit,
but
yeah.
yet she's the main focal point in the beginning of the first episode, or like the first half, really, because she's the one who's been affected by G-Day. She's the one who's on the search for her father. She's or her father's apartment or whatever.
Yeah.
She's like information about her father, right?
Yeah.
So like this is all kind of sparked around her. Like they would not have interacted if it wasn't for her traveling to Tokyo.
Yes.
So, but then Kentaro comes in and he's the one bringing the friend in the chair. He's the one bringing the friend in the chair. He's the one who has connections to Shaw. Like he's the one kind of now driving the force for the rest of this series. He's the one who saves them at the end of the day in episode 4. Like. So I'm a little confused with the Kate character currently. Like.
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning, I enjoyed her character, but I feel like she has become a little taxing.
Agreed.
You know, I felt like there was a really interesting idea of her, but I feel like the biggest issue is like she's the only one who's really at the beginning of the series that has actually interacted with a Muto of some sort,
right.
Out of like Kentaro, the mother, and May. But she seems to be like unwilling to like admit that these things are important, and like she's by the decision she is making. She's making decisions that are like don't scale correctly with what is going on.
Yeah,
you know, like so that's one thing I've seen that's been kind of hard. It's
almost like she's choosing to be delusional. Like
yes, in some ways.
And I think to some extent, her and Kentaro early in the first couple episodes, the first few episodes, they're both like unwilling to admit that, like they both view the other as the illegitimate.
Yes.
Like the bastard.
Which
child.
like wouldn't you though in that scenario? Like if I don't know, I feel like
maybe it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
But they at least I think Kate said where it's like, how do you know it was
don't you want to know like
who was cheated on, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Because obviously this guy, he's a player.
Yeah.
Families in different continents. You know what I'm saying?
That's if you're gonna do it, that's the best way to do it.
I guess so.
Yeah.
You got those work flights. I don't know how you pull that off.
That's extremely hard for sure.
Yeah. But anyways, I just felt like their whole dynamic, and for me, Kate is like been a little annoying. Not so much in episode 4 because was mostly there to just help May survive.
Yeah.
But the first 3 episodes, it was like, okay, Kate, get with the program. Like clearly, your dad is a very important person.
Yeah.
And you just get with the program.
Yeah.
Like stop like being delusional that he had nothing going on and just normal guy. He's not a normal guy.
Yeah. I feel like the 3 main characters, like the 2 biggest issues is A, they don't have any chemistry with each other. Like essentially, I don't feel like there's any chemistry
3 main
between
characters. You mean
like
including May or
including May?
Okay.
I don't feel like there's a whole lot of chemistry between Kate, May, and Kentaro. I don't feel like there's. And then on top of that, I feel like they're all kind of like in this delusional state of like making random senseless decisions where like they just happen to get lucky for the most part
I feel
for
like,
a lot of these things.
I feel like Kentaro is a little bit more like kind of driven. I feel like he has more of resolve with his decision making, whereas May's been a wild card and doesn't really understand. Like she's more worried about like protecting files and computer stuff. Like, but Kate is more trying to figure out how big of a liar her dad is. Like it's just
right.
The scale's different. Like Kentaro, save and rescue your dad, right? But Kate is try to find out why my dad's lying, and then May is like, I gotta keep my data safe and secret.
Yeah,
like,
and Lee is like.
Yeah.
The end of the world. Like,
yes, Lee seems to be the only one who actually has like any like idea about what's going
well,
on.
I mean, when you've seen as many Titans as he has, then
Well, but like, okay, so like you were saying, like Kentaro is driven, but they spent like a quarter of this last episode, like literally negating like the idea
drive.
of him being driven. The whole idea of him like unwilling to go to his own art show opening is kind of like. Cutting that like entire idea off at the legs, in my opinion.
Yeah,
that's fair. That pretty much. Also, the good segue, Shimano. Let's talk about episode 4.
Yeah.
One of my, before we were hanging out before we We actually got to watch this episode together, which is cool. Watching it with you guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
But before we watched it, I made a comment when we were talking about the first 3 episodes where I almost made a comment that, it felt like May and Kentaro got all this like bad blood. Like there's something there, but we don't know. Like what? I'm almost like, why do I care?
Right.
They haven't told us anything about their backstory. And then that's literally like half of the episode 4.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like almost to the point where I was like, okay, I get it. Like I can't.
You were asking for it. But
Yeah, I'm not happy either way. I'm like
Yeah.
one of those Star Wars fans,
Yeah.
where it's like I'm asking for something, I finally get it, and I'm not happy with it.
Yeah.
And but we do get a lot of backstory to their relationship.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah. I do kind of feel like this episode kind of stalled the momentum of the series a little bit, though. So I'm hoping that, like, we can get a little bit.
I agree.
on track, yeah.
I agree. It felt like it did take a lot of the momentum of the series away.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I mean, I think it's because they chose now to establish that backstory. Honestly, they didn't do enough of the flashbacks in this episode. Like, I think that's part of it, because the series has been doing a great balancing act of giving you the past and the present, and then kind of like tying them together at the same time. Well, this episode, I don't think we got a single flashback, did we? Like, I don't think.
Outside of just stuff
yeah.
with Kentaro and May.
Well, I'm talking about like the 50s.
Oh,
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
50s.
No,
No.
yeah. I think all of it was was Kentaro and
okay.
May. That was as far back as it went.
Yeah, see, I don't know. It was a little bit of a stall, but we did get some monster action still, which is
Got a Muto. Got a what was that?
Like
thing?
a heat absorption.
Yeah.
A heat-eating ice dragon.
Like an energy,
thing.
energy absorbing entity. It was kind of what it was. It was more like that's kind of how I thought about it, was because the idea of it's absorbing like the energy that would be released in a fire.
in a fire or an engine.
Yes.
Just something that causes heat.
Yeah.
My theory, because it lives in Alaska, anytime it sends heat anywhere, it needs to like eat it.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah. That's
But also the stuff with the the researcher who's in the desert or whatever.
That apparently sensed or
Got a pulsar
equipment.
spike.
Yeah. There you
Don't
go.
ask me what
there
that
you
means.
go.
Which it's kind of crazy that like the pulsar spike. She was like in Utah,
Utah.
and
that's
like
right.
dude,
She got it in
I saw this
Alaska.
spike in Alaska.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, don't ask me how that works, but
yeah.
But I'm assuming that's because of that Muto that jumped out of the.
Yes. Yeah, I'm assuming that has something to do with that. Although, like, I guess they're doing a
crater
little
at the
more
end,
there than that, because it should have also then shown up, like, when that first plane went down too. If that's what was.
It's got to be it's crater. It's what it has to be picking up. Is
Yeah,
that
it's-
big, massive blue hole in the earth.
So
Yeah.
it's got to be related to that.
Yeah.
So that's interesting in that realm. What's happening? I do think the end of the episode I think did pick up a little bit when they did. With the Monarch and stuff. I think the reason why it did feel slow was those flashbacks with that, and the random or what seemed like random meandering that they did after their interaction with the Muto. Like, oh, we're going to go off this way. We're going to go off this way. It was like 10 minutes of them just kind of wandering through the art, through the ice mountains and like stuff like that.
But
Dude,
but now we're back on track.
And how'd they survive? So
Yeah.
I don't know how frostbite works and hypothermia, but I feel like May and Kentaro should both be dead.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think so. Especially
mean-
her whole legs were wet and frozen.
dude.
Like,
Yeah.
That water was cold.
But
when she fell in.
obviously, Kate threw the line in there. It's like, oh, good, you can feel your nerves are waking up. So therefore,
'cause
we're
she knows how this stuff works.
Yeah.
sure, yeah.
What do we know anything about what she does? Did they ever explain?
Pretty
that?
sure she's a teacher.
Teacher. Oh
That's
yeah,
what, that's
school
what I
bus. School
assumed
bus.
from
Yeah,
that
yeah.
opening,
Yeah, I
or
think
like
that's
what they
right.
did on the
They're on a field trip.
yeah.
But I think that crater is significant.
Yeah.
And they were talking about in like the scientist room and stuff. Like they're saying the last time they had a spike like this, it was right before G-Day and the emergence event, right?
Yeah.
That was. I just like the name of that emergence
event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like something from Pacific Rim.
Oh yeah, actually, yeah. I think they might have used that exact term actually. But I really feel like we saw Godzilla in episode 3, right? I feel like we're gonna get not necessarily Godzilla, but like we may get a massive scene of another giant something from Godzilla's past. Like,
Yeah.
Obviously in the second movie we had all those monsters, right? Because it was Godzilla versus like a ton of them, right?
Yeah.
We may get one of them again. We may, I don't know. Are we going to get Ghidorah? Or like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, is this a thing? Like, are we going to actually see this? Seeing Godzilla in episode 3 makes me believe that it's possible.
Well, yeah, for sure. We're gonna get something because I think that's where they're alluding to. Like this last time we had a spike like this was right before G-Day.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we're getting something. I don't know if it'll be Godzilla, but again, I just want more of the what is Monarch's aim? What is their goal? What do they want? You know?
Where do they fall on like the scale of good and evil at the moment? Like, I know they've been showing kind of shady, but it is kind of one of those things where like,
would you consider them chaotic neutral or?
I think at the moment they're like, I think at the moment they're shrouding it. They're either going to be good and then something's going to happen. They're going to push toward split the group essentially. And they're going to have a more, violent reaction to something, and the other, and our so-called heroes will be like, going in the other direction, or they've been evil this whole time. It's kind of like the two ways I could see it going. So I think there's a distinct possibility. I think something that would be really cool is like maybe like one of the last scenes of this season is we see just like some like red eyes, and you see like the buildings of like a Mecha Godzilla, like in some like far off place. I think it's gonna be really interesting to see where Tim falls on the scale.
I was about to ask about Tim. Yeah,
I feel like there's a possibility that maybe he is. It's weird because they've kind of like put it both ways. Like he seems like he might be a good dude, but it's like. How much is he falling in line with what Monarch is doing right now?
Right.
Like, is he... Because even
he loves the work, not the goals of Monarch. Like, is it that kind of guy? Yeah.
And even, like, in his interactions with Kate, like, he was awkward, but, like, he wasn't necessarily, like, evil, necessarily.
Yeah.
And even everything they have shown, like, the way that he talks and the way that he talks about the goals.
He's not the guy you're inviting to karaoke.
No, yes, exactly. Like, so he seems like he's very much like this guy he's working for Monarch, but he doesn't always like, he almost sees it as a means to an end. Yeah. Like they get him the things that he needs to be able to do his work.
Right.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that he is,
which kind of feels like, the flashbacks from the 50s of Randa and Dr. I can't remember her name, sorry, but his lover.
I mean, her last name's Randa, so
I guess
it becomes Randa.
Right, it becomes Randa. But yeah, like they didn't want to really work with
Shaw,
or the army or the military, but it allowed them to get the funding they needed. Yeah, I feel like Tim is this guy where there might be a little bit of something good about him, like he's going to be a future ally.
Yeah, or maybe there's like a breaking point, and he. Sides with them and maybe leaves Monarch or something like that.
I could see that.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to this rest of the season because...
He's the third Randa.
Yeah, third Randa. Oh, gosh, no. I think something big's going to happen. I really do. I think something massive is going to happen. Especially with, like, the new movie is starting to, like, roll out promotions right now. Like, we just got a promo poster, so that's a thing, right? And we got, like, a little snippet, like a 30-second... like a teaser trailer, kind of like it didn't really show much. It was just kind of just
of the next
Godzilla New Empire.
When is that supposed to come out?
Next year.
Well, dude.
So, like I'm saying, like I feel like something huge is going to happen with this, and it's going to be
even though that will fall later in the timeline, technically, right?
Yes, it would. Yeah.
Okay.
But it could be like the groundwork,
right?
But also, we don't know when in the timeline this show will end. Like we don't know. We've been bouncing all over the place as far as like
true.
50s.
That's a good point.
We've been in two different time periods in the 50s, right? We were in like 52, 53, and then we were in 57, 59.
59.
Yeah.
Yeah, 59.
Yeah.
And I think we were in the 70s. Then we had 50. There was also like 54, 55, I think, too.
Yeah, there was some in the 70s, too.
Yeah, we were in the 70s because Skull Island, they were in the 70s.
Yes, that was 7. I think maybe 74 was that. Yeah, and then it's 52 when they first meet. It's 59 when the grandmother passes away. And then it's like 54, 55 when they're doing the test at Bikini Atoll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then obviously Skull Island events are in the 70s. So
Yes.
does the season end when they're like in 2020, or it's like we don't know,
Yeah.
right? Like what to expect,
Right.
It could be, yeah, they could set up something that ends up being like an assistant to like something that's happening, you know.
I do like the idea of them ending with like the plans and the makings of starting Mechagodzilla. Like I feel like that'd be pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
But it would definitely be the start of, because the Mechagodzilla comes in the very last movie so far, which was 2020 or 2021, 2021 I think. Or
I thought it was 2020. I don't know.
yeah, it's been a couple years.
Yeah.
It's been a couple years.
But yeah, I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, anyways, this was cool.
Yeah.
Hanging out with you guys, watching this show. For whoever's still listening, we appreciate you. I hope you continue to enjoy Monarch. Hope you continue to return to this podcast. And be sure to come back next week. We will have a review of episode number 5 from Monarch Legacy of Monsters. Also, a big shout out to everyone who follows us on social media. Please subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen. Follow us on social media at Royal Geek Pod. And be sure to come back next week for our next review. With all that in mind, for my good friends Sandy and Shimado, this is T-Roll saying thank you so much for listening to the Royal Geek Podcast. We will see you next time, you peasants.